Let me bring in Mahlengi Bhengu, who speaks on behalf of the ANC, joins me now to take the conversation forward. A hectic day for you, I imagine.
Yes.
Just your reflections on day one. Day one is about ceremonial, features, the opening political overview of the president, the messages of solidarity, and this midterm report that has now been delivered. Are you happy with the progress on day one?
We're absolutely happy. We've stuck to the agenda. We have something that is really quite unique to have happened in the ANC, especially in recent years. The fact that we started on time is one very noteworthy thing for us being a large organization. The fact that the credentials of the NGC were unanimously adopted.
Yeah.
No discussion, none whatsoever. The fact that the agenda was adopted in the way it was adopted, and the fact that the political report, what was supposed to be a political overview, but essentially what the president elected to do was to literally account for the political leadership since the last conference. And then immediately after that, of course, we now have had the midterm report, which has been successfully reported on. We are going to be proceeding to the freedom. We're currently now getting the Treasurer General's report, and after which we then proceed to mark and celebrate and commemorate the 70 years of the Freedom Charter, and alongside that, celebrating and paying tribute to 11 centenarians of the ANC.
Yeah.
That includes Alfred Nzo, the former Secretary General, the late Secretary General, and Dr. Chulu, who recently turned 100 years of age, Mama Gertrude Shope, who also turned 100 years of age in 2025. The list goes on and on.
Yeah.
And so it will also be their evening when we gather later.
Am I correct in picking up a sense of reckoning with the crisis that you face as an organization, existential in nature? I heard the president of the ANC talking about renew or perish, and that was echoed in the midterm report by Secretary General Fikile Mbalula. If I'm correct, Mahlengi Bhengu, what's different though? You've done that in the past, reckoning with the sense of crisis, that there is a crisis. So what's different this time?
Yeah, I think it is very different. You only have to look at the conduct of delegates. The fact that people are sitting and discussing and reflecting, collective reflection. So it is a moment of collective reflection. But I think the message has landed that we are in an existential crisis. You perish, you renew or perish. And I think that it's very clear that our structures are of one mind with the National Executive Committee, which delivered the midterm report through the Secretary General.
Yeah.
And that's a good start, because you cannot pursue a renewal path. You cannot fight an election with the commitment and the fierceness that it requires if your charges are not convinced that they should fight tooth and nail. We are now at a point where I think there's a certain psychology among delegates, and hopefully that will have a trickle-down effect on all other members of the ANC wherever they are.
So part of that reckoning with the sense of crisis, as I was reading this report, and I must admit I've not had enough time to go through all 294 pages, so I was picking up bits and pieces here and there. Part of those bits and pieces talks to grappling with and accounting for the poor performance in the elections in 2024. Part of it is just, your voters, your base not being enthused. About 4 million voters, you say in the report, that traditionally vote ANC just simply didn't bother to show up on election day. And then you go on now and talk about 2026, seeking to actually register new voters, 4 million of them. How do you propose to do that?
Well, you either sit down and do nothing, or you attempt something. We are in the process of rebuilding the ANC, building our structures. We are in the process of rolling out the local government action plan that we adopted when we did a roll call of all councillors. And at the time when the ANC decided to bring all its councillors to Nazareth to receive marching orders from the president about how we're going to be driving performance in municipalities, municipality by municipality, and what the expectations. That plan is very clear about dealing with refuse, dealing with collection, dealing with this and dealing with potholes and all of those things that are immediate for our people. There was cynicism on many fronts as to why you think a rally can solve the challenges, because when you bring people at close to 7,000, that's quite a lot. But what was significant about that, Thulasizwe, is the fact that it was also about reviving the spirit of councillors and also reviving a culture of accountability.
Yeah.
Weeks after that roll call, we've seen a lot of councillors, including those that are underreported. Mbashe in the Eastern Cape, many councillors in various parts of the country. Of course, we've seen eThekwini being turned around in many respects, on many indicators. We've seen Ekurhuleni, Johannesburg, seeing the work that's being done to high-impact service delivery initiatives. Where am I going to? I'm going to the fact that clearly the message has landed to our members. And now the focus is on, do I do better?
Yeah.
And how do I do better? Not whether I start doing things.
All right.
And so I think that message resonates with what you see at plenary there.
All right.
Yeah.
I've got two more themes that I want to tease out with you, and then I'll allow you to. Are you going for dinner? is it the dinner break yet?
Well, we're going to the Freedom Charter.
To the Freedom Charter commemoration.
Yes.
So let me ask you this. There seems to be an emphasis on the NDR, National Democratic Revolution, National Democratic Society. And I've been making the point, and I hope I'm not belaboring the point, but I've been making the point that it's not that in previous sessions of this nature, you would not pick up NDR if you read conference documents. It's just the foregrounding of the NDR this time around. It's prominent, it's there, it's in your face, as well as the Freedom Charter. What makes that message a message for the moment?
I'm actually quite enthused by the fact that you spotted that, and hopefully many will do, because the idea is to not just foreground our messaging, but is to be explicit about what we stand for. The ideals of the Freedom Charter adopted on the 26th of June at the Congress of the People, those ideals must still be realized. And the Constitution, of course, is founded on the ideals of the Freedom Charter as well, and our Bill of Rights. But the Freedom Charter, singularly as a document, as our compass, is very important to lift up, including our theory of revolution. If you look at all of that, despite the fact that there is this narrative about those who were once liberation movements struggling to transition into becoming a party in government. And we have to contend with that. But we refuse to accept the idea that it is always so. Yes, the ANC is going through a difficult time and through a number of our own mistakes. But we're here now in the moment. We've got to revive this organization of our forebears, and it's a commitment that we're making. And I do think that society, at the moment, there's a lot of despondency about the ANC. But I do think that the ANC is going to come alive wherever we talk about this thing. There's a question that you had asked earlier, and it related to the same issue about the disconnect between the ANC and our people. We're working hard on that. But we're also working hard on making sure that those we have deployed to government perform according to what is expected. We have introduced an accountability framework for councillors all the way to ministers. We have said lifestyle audits must be taken, including the NEC of the ANC.
Right.
Is expected to do lifestyle audits as part of the renewal program.
All right. Lastly then, You as a party have emphasized that while this is the second highest decision-making body of the ANC after the conference, it really isn't about leadership. It's hard to take that point for many pundits and people who watch politics, because we know from history that succession leadership may not officially be on the table, but antennas are up, because you have a situation where you have a conference, if I can add the adjective, an elective conference in 2 years. You have a president, we don't know whether he'll stand for a third term as ANC president, but we know that he's not returning as country president, and therefore that specter of succession rises. How honest are you with yourselves about delegates here starting to put out feelers, starting to sense each other, sound each other out, and starting to have, in hushed tones, conversations that are about convincing one another?
Well, I suppose you can't gag delegates when they do that in their own informal settings. But what I definitely can say with certainty, there will be any discussion about leadership and succession issues at this Congress. In fact, when that point was made in the morning by the Secretary General, the House clapped loudly. Again, it's that old discipline of the ANC is coming back. And there will be no such a discussion, even in commissions. And we will remind one another. I'm sure delegates will also remind one another when someone goes south. Formally, so officially, that is not going to happen. It doesn't stop delegates from moving from one hotel to another to go and lobby still. But it doesn't find its way into the formal discussions of the ANC. We're quite serious, Thulasizwe, about postponing that engagement. This is not the time for it. Whoever does that, they know that they're defining themselves outside of the ANC. We can't have a discussion about leadership when, in fact, we should be focusing on rebuilding, reconnecting with our communities, getting embedded with our communities, and making sure that the presence of the ANC is felt in various organs of popular participation. You know, your school governing bodies, your hospital boards, and all of that. This is not the time to be obsessing about who is going to be the next president. Definitely there will be the next president and the next leadership, but this is not the moment for that.
Let's leave it there for now. Mahlengi Bhengu, I've got to thank you for your time. That's Mahlengi Bhengu, who speaks on behalf of the ANC spokesperson. So Tembegile, that's how it's looking, and Bongiwe, that's how it's looking at this hour. In terms of the trajectory of the next few hours, the next focus, the Treasurer General's report, as well as the celebrations and marking the Freedom Charter and its adoption. So that's some of what is on the agenda. This is, of course, way before delegates will then start gathering in those commissions and subcommittees where such items as the midterm report of the Secretary General will be under consideration.
And Thulas, as you say, how honest are they going to be in some of these conversations is anyone's guess, because that's exactly what the ANC has been talking about, renew or perish. So let's see then what happens. Our colleague there, Thulasizwe Simelane, will cross back to him throughout the course of the evening.